So the first one is the pretas, suffering from external obscurations or external hindrances. So let me read through. These pretas are tormented by extreme hunger and thirst. Centuries pass without their even hearing any mention of water. Constantly obsessed with food and drink, they search for them endlessly, without ever finding even the tiniest trace. From time to time, far away, they catch sight of a stream of clear, pure water, but their joints are too fragile to take the weight of their bellies. They get there only with great pain and arrive utterly exhausted, only to suffer even more when they find that the water has completely dried up, leaving nothing but the stony riverbed. Sometimes they see an orchid. Sometimes they see an orchid of fruit trees. Let me see it. Sometimes they see an orchid of fruit trees in the distance. As before, they approach, but when they arrive, they find that the huge trees are all dried up and withered. Sometimes they see an abundance of food and drink and other pleasant things, but when they get near, they find that it is guarded by a large number of armed men who chase and beat them with their weapons, causing them great pain. In summertime, even the moonlight feels hot and burns them. In winter, even the sun feels icy cold. These sensations torture them terribly. So the sun is hot, of course. The sun is always hot, whether it's winter or summertime. But just like people who live in icy regions feel cold even during the day, due to their negative karma, people born in the pretas, born in the hungry ghost realm, for them the moonlight, even the moonlight, which is supposed to, moonlight shines only through the nighttime. So during the moonlight, even when they witness the moonlight, it still burns them, and even the sun feels cold for them. So once when Shrona was in the land of Pratas, so he found their avarice so poisonous that it gave him a fever and his mouth became completely dry. He came across an iron castle at whose door stood a terrifying somber figure with red eyes. So when Shrona went through the land of the Pratas, land of the hungry ghost, because their negative karma is so heavy, people who were not born in their realm also can sometimes feel the weight of the negative karma. So sometimes even when we do nothing wrong, when we are with a very negative person, when the person, there's nothing wrong with ourselves, we are really in a very good mood and everything is like super fine, then we meet somebody who is always complaining, who is always bad-mouthing others, very judgmental, then that person keeps talking about other people's faults and different things, and then it starts to cloud upon us. It starts clouding our own happiness. It starts to burden us down as well. So this happens, right? So similarly, even though Shrona himself is not born in the Pratas realm, but when he passed through that region, he could feel the heaviness of their misery. Now, so Shrona asked, "Where is some water to the Pratas?" And at these words, a crowd of pretas, all looking like lumps of burnt wood, came miling around him, begging, "Great perfect being, give us water. I found none myself," answered he. "It is for you to give me some." "What do you mean?" replied the Pratas. We were born in this land 12 years ago, and until today we have never even heard as much as a mention of water. So next is the Pratas suffering, and we just covered the Pratas suffering from external obscuration, now the internal obscuration. So think of obscuration here as a burden, as a hindrance, something that drags you down. This is what it refers to as an obscuration. These pretas have mouths no bigger than the eye of a needle. Even were they to drink all the waters in the great oceans, by the time it had passed down their throats, which are as narrow as a horsehair, the heat of their breath would have evaporated. Even were they somehow to swallow a little, their stomachs, which are the size of a whole country, could never be filled. Even if, finally, enough to satisfy them were ever to get into their stomach, it would burst into flames during the night and burn their lungs, their heart, and all their entrails. When they want to move, they cannot lift their gigantic bellies with their grass-like limbs, and this causes them immense suffering. This is not something hard to think of. So when we say pretas with a big stomach the size of a country, of course, maybe that sounds a little bit of an exaggeration, but from the point of the view of the pretas themselves, their stomachs are the size of a country. It's so big and so hollow. There is nothing, so empty. There's nothing in there because they have been hungry for so long. And these things do happen in our day-to-day lives. We see people who have all the money, who have all the luxuries, but still, they have everything, but they cannot consume the things that they would love to consume. So even though they are not exactly like the story that we pictured above, like not being able to drink water or that kind of thing, but for example, the pretas are thirsty and want to drink water, and they cannot get any water. Even when the water is in front of them, they cannot get it. When they come to drink the water, it burns them. The same thing happens to many of us when we are diagnosed with this and that diseases, this and that illnesses. Even though we have all the money in the world, we cannot drink. When we are diagnosed with diabetes, no matter how thirsty you are for something sugar to drink, you cannot drink that. I mean, you can try to drink it, but eventually it will harm you. So you cannot drink that. So these are what we can call modern day pretas to some extent. Even though they may not be a fully grown preta, but it is to some extent the same experience. We experience the same thing that a preta would do. Then, of course, there are people who one example is in many parts of South Africa, many parts of Africa, people suffering from famine, not just Africa, but in many regions of India. And also during the pandemic, many people lost their job. And when they lost their job, even though it's not exactly like a preta in the sense that you have nothing to eat, but your mind is occupied similarly to that of a preta in the sense that I can have food for 2 weeks, maybe 2 months, but after that, what I'm going to do? Shall I break my my fixed deposits in the bank? What shall I do? Because now I'm not getting any not getting a steady flow of salary or wage like I used to do. So what I'm going to do, what I have to do about next year. So all these things happening, your mind is totally occupied with what food you should get, what clothing you should get, and how are you going to extend that. So that makes the state of the preta seem so much more real than you would think. Just when you normally talk about hungry ghosts, we think like, oh, hungry ghosts is a different realm. We are human beings; they are different. There's so much difference between the hungry ghost and us. If you talk about pretas in a physical realm, then maybe there is some difference. There's a huge difference. But but when you think of that as human beings living the same experiences as the pretas, then we are not very much different from the pretas. Now, pretas suffering from specific obscurations. So in the Tibetan translation, in the Tibetan specific burdening obscurations, it says. In the English translation, there's one word missing. Burden is missing here. Anyway, so the pretas suffering from specific burdens. These pretas have all sorts of different experiences that vary from one to another and are of varying intensity. For example, some have many creatures living on their bodies and devouring them. Once he was traveling in the land of the pretas, Shona came to a place where he met a beautiful woman, exquisitely formed and bedecked with precious jewels. She was ravishing to behold. To each of the 4 legs of her throne a preta was tied. She offered Shona something to eat, warning him not to give the smallest scrap to the other pretas, even if they begged for it. When Shona started to eat, they began to beg. He gave some food to one of them, and it turned into a chaff. What he gave to the second turned into a lump of iron. The third started to eat his own flesh, and what he gave to the fourth became person blood. When the woman came back, she cried, "Didn't I tell you not to give anything to them? Do you think that you are more compassionate than I am?" "What is the connection between you and these 4? Shona asked her. "This was my husband, that was my son, and that was my daughter-in-law, and the 4th one was my servant." What past actions have brought you to here? What brought you here? The people of Jambudvipa are too skeptical, the woman replied. You will never believe me. So Jambudvipa is it means this world, the earth. So what the woman was saying is, people from this world are very skeptical, and you won't believe me. And so Shona told her, "How could I not believe you when I'm seeing this with my very own eyes?" So the woman told Shona her story. "In my previous life, I was a Brahmin woman, so Hindu woman in a village. One evening, Brahmin is the high caste. So in Hinduism, there's a caste system. So Brahmins are usually the priest, and their descendants are Brahmins. The priest and their descendants, their sons and daughter, are all Brahmin caste. So the Brahmin women, I was a Brahmin woman in a village. One evening, I had prepared some delicious food because it was an auspicious day. The great and sublime Katyayana, that is great master, during Buddha's time, happened to come by on his arms round. I felt faith in him and gave him an offering of food. Then I thought to myself that perhaps my husband would like to share the merit. Rejoice with me that I have given alms to the great and sublime Katyayana, the Buddha's heir. I said to him, but he flew into a rage. You have not yet offered food to the Brahmins, nor even presented your respects to your family and friends. And here you were giving the first part of the food to this shaven-skulled monk, why can't he stuff his mouth with chaff? I made the same proposition to my son, who also got angry. Why doesn't your bald head eat lumps of iron? He yelled. That night, my parents sent me over some delicious food, but my daughter-in-law ate it, leaving me the worst bits. When I asked her, "Did you eat the good food and just leave me the worst bits?" So that is like a punishment to her because she gave food to the monk. When I asked her, "Did you eat the good food and just leave me the worst bits?" she told me a lie, saying, "I would rather eat my own flesh." And said she, "Then touch a dish which was meant for you." Similarly, when my servant ate the meal that she was supposed to take over to my family, she told me that she would rather drink blood and pus than steal from me. And I myself became a powerful preta because I made a wish to be reborn where I could see what happened to them as a result of their actions. So she has that negative thought, that sort of more of like an avenging thought, because she thinks, there's a saying nowadays, people say, okay, you don't worry about anything else. If somebody does bad thing to you, don't worry, karma will take care of it. It is a reality, of course, that karma will take care of it. But if you think like, oh, somebody did bad to me and now karma will do something bad to them, and you feel happy that their karma will actually take care of it, then that is also a negative thought. So what she did was she became a preta, powerful preta, because she has that wish. She wanted to see all the people who did wrong to her suffer. And because of that, she was born in the preta. Had I not met such a wish, I could have been born amongst the gods of the heaven of the 33. This is the highest realm of the god, having given alms to a sublime being. But because her motivation, not just the motivation, of course, her motivation was good to give the monks, to offer to the monks, right? But, normally we talk about two things, motivation and dedication. So the motivation was good to offer to the monks. But the dedication, she did not dedicate it for, even though her families judged her, did wronged her, she could have dedicated good thoughts towards them and to the monk. Instead, she dedicated it for the wrong reason. She offered with the good motivation, but she dedicated it with the wrong view. And so therefore she was born in the Pratas realm. If you ever go to our village, so I'm following through. If you ever go to our village, tell my daughter, who is a prostitute, that you have seen her parents and that you have been entrusted to tell her that what she is doing will have negative effects, that it is the wrong way to live and she should give up those evil ways. If she doesn't believe you, tell her that in her father's old house there are 4 iron pots with gold, a golden stick, and an ablution jar for monks. Tell her to take them and make offerings to the great and sublime Katyayana from time to time and dedicate the merit in our name. This will reduce our negative karma till it is finally exhausted. Once, as the Master Jatari was traveling, it's an Indian Pandita, scholar, great master. Master Jatari was traveling. He met a female preta with a repulsive body, who was the mother of 500 children. My husband went to Bodh Gaya 12 years ago looking for food. He still isn't back. If you go there, tell him that if he doesn't come back soon, our children will all have died of hunger. What does your husband look like? Asked the master. All pretas look alike. How will I recognize them? She said, you can't miss him. He's got a huge mouth, a squashed nose, and is blind in one eye and has all 9 marks of ugliness. When Master Jatari came to Bodh Gaya, he saw a novice monk throwing many food and water Dharma offerings outside. When the novice had gone, a horde of pretas was jostling to get them. Among them was the one he was looking for, so he gave him his wife's message. The preta replied, I've wandered for 12 years, but I never got a thing, except once when a pure monk let fall some snot. But I didn't even get much of that because there were lots of us fighting for it. And during that battle for a bit of snot, the master added as he related the story, the preta had been terribly wounded by the others. So this particular story of the 500 pretas is a very common. So there is a common practice in the Tibetan Buddhism, which is very much related to this story. When I say Tibetan Buddhism, I actually meant to Tibetan Buddhist monks. So after their last meal of the day, the monks would usually take a remainder of their the leftover, maybe just a little bit of something left over. They would make it into a lump, and then there's a certain mantra to be said, and that mantra was recited upon that lump of food, leftover food, and then that leftover food we dedicate to the pretas. So one story that is missing in this particular, one part of the story missing in this particular story of the 500 son, the woman with 500 sons, was that she actually, the story goes that every day she eats her own son to keep herself full. So some of the pretas cannot eat, some of them can eat, but sometimes they have to eat their own flesh. Some of them have to eat their own children. So this woman is eating her own children every day. And so if you are, when you kill somebody, of course, there's a huge negative karma. But when you kill your own children, so the negative karma is incredible. So in order to stop her from eating her own children, the Master Katyana, Master Jetari, made a promise to the woman who is eating her children every day that from now onwards, I will tell my followers to dedicate a certain portion of their food for you. So from then onwards, this practice has been done in Tibet. The Tibetan monks, many of them senior monks, they dedicate their leftover food to the pretas, especially the mother with 500 sons. Oh yeah. So maybe we have some questions.
We don't have any questions at the moment, Michelle.
Oh.
Not yet. Anyone out there?
It's okay. It's okay. If you don't have questions, then we have time to do some meditation, right? And also, I have some instructions as well. Oh yeah. Yeah. So the meditation we are going to do today is we will meditate on the plight, the suffering of the pretas, the hungry ghost. Before we go to that, okay. So bring your attention to the breathing. So first focus on your breathing. Breathe in 4 times, then hold for 2 times, 2 counts, and then exhale, breathe out for 4 counts. Now that we have our attention, we have collected our mind, let's focus on the plight of the suffering of the pretas. So all the pains and suffering that the pretas go through, the story that we have related earlier, so focus on that. Not just that, think of the moment when you are not able to get your breakfast, maybe when you miss your dinner. Or make it more, let's make it more relatable. Remember the day, recall the day when you are not able to get a raise in your salary. Recall the day, remember the day when you're not able to make a profit with your business. Remember the day when you are not able to sell anything. Remember the day when you need so much, when you desperately need some money, but nobody is lending you any money. So remember the days when you wanted something and you couldn't get it, no matter how hard you try. Now, how remember those days. Okay, make it relatable, make a connection, and how terrible those days are. Sometimes not just one day. Sometimes for weeks we are not able to make any profit. We are not able to get what we want. So remember the day when we wanted somebody's attention and we're not able to get it. Somebody's love, somebody's compassion, and we're not able to get it. So all these incidents, when you are not able to get the things that you want, when you are not able to get money, salary, profit, name, success, love, attention, care, all these incidents. So when you are longing for this thing, when you are longing for it, when you are anxious about getting what you want, even though you may not be born in the realm of the pretas, you are living the life of a preta. So all these things, all this, the suffering that you go through, all the sufferings that the pretas go through, the sufferings that you go through as a preta, doesn't come out of the blue. Doesn't come, doesn't just fall from the sky. There is a cause for that, and that cause is stinginess, greediness, and depreciating, not appreciating, but depreciating, being critical of other people, making offerings, participating in generosity, and so on and so forth. When somebody does a good thing, instead of appreciating that person, if you depreciate it, if you are critical of that person who is doing a good deed, then it creates the karma for you to be born as a preta or to experience lives of a preta. Oh yeah. So it is important to give things when you can give them, whether it's a smile, whether it is an attention, whether it is your thought, whether it is your kind words. If somebody is asking for your kind words, and you can give them kind words, somebody is desperately needing kind words. Somebody is desperately suffering, and if they need it, and then you can give them, but you don't give it to them, then you are accumulating the karma to be born or to experience lives of a preta. So reflect on all these things. None of us want to be born as preta. None of us want to experience life of a preta. So therefore, we need to refrain from engaging in these activities. And whenever we can, whenever we could, we should give. Don't be stingy, don't be greedy. So when we talk about stinginess, we are not talking about money or food alone. We are talking about attention, we are talking about care, we are talking about love, everything. Also, when we make offerings, when I say offering, so usually when we give to up, we say offering. When we give to down, we say a gift. But when I say up and down, I'm talking about beggars and the triple gem. So normally when we make offering, when we give to the monks and to the triple gem, we say offering. When we give to the beggars, we say give. Even in Tibetan, the word, the term used is very much different. But whether you give up or down, it's still an offering. And so therefore, when we offer to the triple gem, we are so careful with our behavior and everything. But when we give to, the so-called down, the people, beggars and so on and so forth, people who are suffering, we usually look down upon them. We give them with, as the name suggests, we give them down. When we give to the monks, we usually offer like this. The monks take like this, right? But when we give to the beggars, we don't give like this, but we give like this, and they have to take it from us, from below our hand. So what I'm trying to tell here is that whenever you participate in the deeds, activity of generosity, whether you give to the triple gem, whether you give to the beggars, to people who are in need, always give with respect. Very important. Because if you remember the story, just we covered a little bit earlier, the lady with the four pretas surrounding her chair. There was a good motivation from her side, but the dedication was that she wants to avenge her family because they were not good to her. So in her practice, the dedication was wrong. And many times, in our cases, not just the dedication, but even the motivation goes wrong. We wanted to give because we have our own ulterior motives. And when we have, when we give with a negative thought, even the activity, the deed itself is a good activity, but because of our motivation, it becomes it sort of twists the karma. So we were born in a poor village as a rich person. Something like that. So what happens is, even though you are experiencing something good, everyone around is in so much shabbiness, so much jeopardy, and what we do is, when we have everything and everybody else has nothing, and many of us, because we are ordinary sentient beings, we tend to feel superior to other people. Okay, so everybody around us is poor. I'm very rich, so I feel I'm more superior than the others who are poor than me, and that actually encourages me to be more proud, more egotistical, and abuse the other people more, and that actually accumulates more negative karma. And then in this life, even though I'm born in a poor village as a rich person, rich person's son or whatever, but because of my negative karma in this life, I'll be much worse off in my next life, and then worse and worse from then onwards. So even if you are born as a rich person in a poor country or poor village, even if you are born as a rich person, still, you should not take everything for granted. And so this is what happened with the lady. She was born in the Preta realm, but she was born as a princess, very beautiful and everything. But she was born in the Preta realm. And she's suffering in the sense that even though she has a beautiful body and she has a living the life of a rich girl, but her relatives were surrounding her. Her relatives from previous life were all surrounding her and suffering tremendously. So this happens a lot, even in today's world, where many rich people have, everything in the world, just everything, no shortage of anything. Then they have children who are diagnosed with, terminal illnesses, children who cannot speak, children who are, just really terrible people, from the very young age. And so the people, the parents have done nothing wrong. To be rich it is not a crime or a bad thing to be rich. They have, even when they have everything, they have done nothing wrong, but still have children, their relatives, suffering, and they have to live with it. So these things come when we, of course, richness, wealth does not come out of the blue, does not fall from the sky. There is also a cause, which is generosity. So generosity is important, but generosity should be fortified. It should be accompanied by good thoughts. Pure motivation is most important when you give. If you give something, but with an inferior or ulterior motive, if you think like, okay, I am a rich person, so I'm giving them, and it makes me feel more superior, then it actually has a negative effect. So you will, because you give, the act of generosity is there. So in your next life or in your future lives, you will become rich. But at the same time, because you give with a bad motivation, you will not be able to enjoy your riches. There will be lots of money. There will be a lot of wealth. But you will not be able to sort of take full advantage of the wealth that belongs to you. It is yours, but you cannot partake in it. Now I've shared some mantras here, and so we also recounted the story of the sublime Katyayana, Arya Katyayana, who when he threw a saliva, when he actually threw a snot, like that, the Pratas were able to get some food. So it happens that realized masters, realized beings, when they throw some excretas and some of their bodily stains, only those times, because of their powerful the practice that they do, the Pratas were able to get some food. So there are some mantras which we can recite when we, even though we are ordinary human beings, when we recite those mantras, we can dedicate our own excretas and our bodily excretions as food for spirits, as well as for hungry beings, hungry ghosts. So one of the reasons they are called hungry ghosts is because most of the spirits and the ghosts, they belong to when we talk about the 6 realms, they belong to the realm of the hungry ghost. So the spirits, the evil spirits and the ghost, they all belong to the preta realm. And so therefore, when we recite the mantra, it becomes an offering for those beings. So for example, if evil spirits usually survives on killing people or maybe just doing bad things, when we dedicate food for them, when we offer food for them, because their stomach is full for that day, they will not harm people. I'm going to share the mantra on the screen. So the last two mantras are not part of this practice, but somebody asked, so that I'm adding two more mantras. But usually, so the first mantra is Om A Shlekam Aharebya Soha. So that is for saliva. Saliva. So when we throw like our ordinary saliva, sometimes people like to spit, right? People, even in India, people like to eat the pan. It's a red thing. So they eat the pan and they throw the spit everywhere. So when you throw the spit, the saliva, you can actually offer that to the pretas. So if you recite this mantra Om Ashlekam Aharebya Soha, then it becomes a food for the pratas, the hungry ghosts, the saliva. Next is the phlegm. When we cough, the mucus, that thing, the phlegm. When we do something like, that is the phlegm. So this is when we cough, when we have that phlegm, the mucus inside, we usually throw it out, right? So that can also be transformed into a food for the pretas. And for that we have the mantra Om A Kreta Aharebya Soha, Aharebya Soha, Om A Kreta Aharebya Soha, Om A Kreta Aharebya Soha. Next is the snot. So remember the story of the Master Katyana, Katyana, when he threw away the snot, it was consumed by the pretas. So that is Om A Pigina Aharebya Soha, Pigina. Om A Pigina Aharebya Soha, Om A Pigina Aharebya Soha. That is for snot. Then we have bodily stain. So when we shower and when we rub our body, the stain from our body comes out. So for that this can also be transformed as a offering. For that Om A Mala Aharebya Soha, Om A Mala Aharebya Soha, Om A Mala Aharebya Soha. That is the bodily stain. Next we have the stool or shit. That is Om A Vit Aharebya Soha, Om A Vit Aharebya Soha, Om A Vit Aharebya Soha. Next is urine, our piss. Om A Mutra Aharebya Soha, Mutra. I think maybe can you please make a correction here? I made a Muhtra. T, not D. Okay, Mutra. T. Yeah, not D. T, please. Yeah. Yes, thank you so much. Mutra. That is the piss. Yeah, urine. Om A Mutra Aharebya Soha. Yeah. So this is to converting all the waste from our body, our snot, our stool, our urine, all the waste. We turn all our waste into an offering. What you can do is, if you're serious about this practice, you can just cut it. You can write it down and on a piece of paper, and then stick it on your toilet. And then when you are brushing your teeth, when you are doing your number 1 and number 2, you can always reflect on this mantra and then make the offering. So the next two are a specific request. So somebody asked for the transmission of this mantra. So first is when you were eating meat, when you were eating non-vegetarian food, when that is Om Avira Kecharahum, Om Avira Kecharahum, Om Avira Kecharahum. So when you recite the mantra 3 times and blow on the meat that you are eating, the animal whose body that you are eating is born in the heavenly realm, 33rd heavenly realm, the highest heavenly realm. And the last one is Om Kechara Gana Hongri Soha, Om Kechara Gana Hongri Soha, Om Kechara Gana Hongri Soha. So this one is a little bit different. You have to recite 3 times, and then actually the practice says you have to spit on your foot. You spit on your foot, and then that particular day when you walk around, if you step on any insect, any living beings, not the first one, second one. No, not spit on your food, blow on your food. Blow on your food, spit on your feet. So after that, all the sentient beings that dies under your feet will be born in the 33rd heavenly realm. Okay, that's it now. That's your daily practices. Okay, I think there's one question, right?
Yes, Rinpoche. I'll read the question.
Yes, please.
Prostrate to Rinpoche. What if we make offerings but we forget to make dedication? What will happen to that offering? Will we still get? Will we still earn the merits? Thank you.
A very practical question. Excellent question. So of course you will earn the merit, and you will absolutely earn the merit if you still forget to dedicate. As I said before, when you make the offering, it is a physical practice, right? So it will have a consequence, or it will have a it is a karma. It is an act of generosity. It is an karma means action. That's it. So when you offer something, even without any thought, good thought or bad thought, you are still engaging in a physical activity of positivity. So you are accumulating a good karma. That is for sure. If you offer with a good motivation and proper dedication, then of course it is fortified, meaning it becomes safe. Whether you have any bad thoughts after that, right after making the offering, if you have a good thought, you dedicate it well, then maybe 7 days later, 1 week later, you feel like, oh, I should not have made that offering. I'm going through so much deprivation myself. Maybe I should not have made that offering. Or if you say something bad, it will not ruin the merit that you have already accumulated. So if you don't make the dedication, then if you regret of making that offering later, then it becomes counterproductive. So that's why it's important to dedicate. Yeah. One more question?
Yes, thank you, Rinpoche. Second question, Rinpoche. What time do you suggest is better to practice smoke offering, in the afternoon or in the evening? Thank you, Rinpoche.
Very good question. So it is best to offer during the start of the dusk, like when the sun is setting and it's becoming darker. So yeah, so it's like not exactly late evening, between late afternoon and early evening. So dusk, like usually when the sun sets, when the sun is setting down. So human beings, we get up when the sun rises. The spirits, the hungry ghosts, the pretas, get up when the sun sets. So the hungry ghosts are ghosts after all. And then if you watch ghost movies, the ghost always appears in the dark, whether it's day or night. Usually nighttime, but even if it's the daytime, for the ghost to appear, it has to be dark, in a dark room or something. When everything is light, the ghost does not appear. It's It has to do. It has something to do with our psychology and everything. But you know, the ghosts appear at the time of dusk. So sunset is our sunset is their rising time. Our sunrise is their setting time. So when we make offering during so maybe a good question is like, why not make offering at the midnight, right? Because the thing is, it's like when we open our eyes in the morning and there is a beautiful an array of delicious food laid on your bed. You know, you'll feel very happy. Just the moment you open your eyes on your bed, but on the table beside your bed, there is a lot of delicious food. You can eat anything you like. Similarly, when the dusk starts, when the sun starts setting down, then they start getting up. So when they start getting up, the first thing they see is the food offerings. Then they feel happy.
Rinpoche, the smoke offering here is a sur offering.
Yeah, the sur offering.
There's
Yeah,
a spiritual sanction is a yes, okay.
Right. Not the fire puja, the smoke puja. You
yes,
know, the
yes.
Yeah. Yes. If you are making offerings, if you are in Vietnam and making offerings for the hungry ghost in the morning time, you can actually dedicate it to the ghost in America because it's nighttime there. And you can do the same in America. If you're morning offering the sur in morning time, you can dedicate that to the ghost living in Asia. Oh, another question is, if the sunset time is missed, later darker is also doable. Yes, you can also make it later. Yeah, there's after sunset it's better. Yeah, so you can do it even later. Yeah, just like we also have late breakfast. Sometimes they can also have the same thing. Okay, I think that concludes today's session. It's a very long session, but thank you for your attention, your dedication, your commitment to the practice of the Dharma. Let's dedicate. Gewan di nyundo da nama sangye ndokyo ndawa jikyang ma lumba kege sala ge bara sho janjo semjo rinpo je ma ye bana ma ge jo je kewa nyamba me bara yang kone gondo be wara sho me nze der jin jin se te me gen be wan boy jan be ya gan jin gen be zoi gen zoi kai ba loi zoi jai be shai lai so ne me nze der jin jin se te me gen be wan boy jan be ya gan jin gen be zoi gen zoi kai ba loi zoi jai be shai lai so me nze der jin jin se te me gen be wan boy jan be gan jin gen be zoi gen zoi kai ba loi zoi jai be shai lai so
Yembe, Nimbo, Jimbe, Bima, Nam,
Ding yin, zhou dian, dang bao ran, zhou wan, de.